Captain Jake Morrison sat in his chair on the bridge of the Starbound Dawn. The ship was 3 months into a deep space mission, exploring the outer edges of known space. Jake had been a captain for 8 years now, and he loved the quiet moments. Between star systems, space was peaceful out here, far from Earth's busy trade routes. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Lisa Barnes from her position at the communications station. Lisa had been with Jake's crew for 2 years. She was one of the best signal operators in the fleet, able to decode almost any transmission they came across. Jake turned his chair toward her. "What kind of strange?" Lisa frowned at her screens. The blue glow from her instruments lit up her face in the dim bridge lighting. "It's definitely artificial. Not natural space noise. But it's not from any human ship either." Dr. Alex Chen looked up from his science station. Alex was the ship's science officer, a quiet man who could figure out almost any puzzle. "Are you sure it's not from one of our colonies?" "Positive," Lisa said. She pressed some buttons, and the ship's speakers crackled to life. A strange sound filled the bridge. It was clearly a voice, but speaking in a language none of them had ever heard. The voice sounded desperate, almost crying. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. In all his years in space, he had never heard an alien voice before. No human had. They knew other intelligent life existed out there, but contact had never been made. Jake asked. Lisa worked at her station. For several minutes, the sound became clearer. It was definitely an alien speaking, and even though Jake couldn't understand the words, the emotion was clear. Fear, pain, desperation. "Captain," Alex said quietly, "I think this is a distress call." Jake stood up and walked to the center of the bridge. His crew of 12 had all stopped their work to listen. Everyone understood they were witnessing something historic. First contact with an alien species, but this wasn't the peaceful meeting humanity had always imagined. "Lisa, can we trace where it's coming from? Working on it now?" Lisa's fingers moved quickly across her controls. "The signal is very far away. Maybe 6 months travel time from here." "Can you record everything and run it through the translation programs?" "Already doing it, Captain." For the next 4 hours, Lisa and Alex worked together to decode the message. Jake paced the bridge, unable to sit still. His crew worked quietly, but he could feel their excitement and worry. Finally, Lisa called out, "Captain, I think we've got something." Jake hurried over to her station. On her screen were words in English translated from the alien language.
"Yes.
Is Calacia of the Zolani people on Aquatica Prime? We send this message to any who can hear us. We are under attack. Our world is dying. The Korthok Empire has come to our home. They take our people as slaves. They poison our oceans. They kill our children." Jake read the words twice, his hands gripping the back of Lisa's chair. The message continued, "We are a peaceful people. We have no weapons to fight them. We have no ships to escape. We can only hide in the deep places of our world and watch as everything we love is destroyed. Anyone receives this message, please help us. We have little to offer except our gratitude, but we beg any species with compassion to aid us. Korthok will finish their work soon. Time grows short." The bridge was silent when Jake finished reading. He looked around at his crew. They all stared back at him with the same expression. Horror, anger, and something else. Determination? "How far did you say?" Jake asked Lisa. 6 months by normal space travel, Captain." Jake walked to the main viewing screen. Stars scattered. Across the darkness like diamonds, somewhere out there people were dying. An entire species was being destroyed while he stood safely on his ship. "Alex, what do we know about this Korthok Empire?" Alex checked his databases. "Nothing, Captain. We've never heard of them. But based on the message, they sound like slavers and raiders." Jake thought about Earth's history. Humanity had seen its share of empires that conquered and enslaved. They knew what that looked like. They knew how it ended if no one stood up to stop it. "Lisa, can we send a message back?" "I can try, Captain, but it will take months to reach them." "Do it. Tell them help is coming, Captain," said his first officer, Tom Wilson. "What help? We're just one exploration ship. You don't have." Weapons for a war. Jake turned to face his crew. These were good people. They had joined the space service to explore and discover, not to fight. But Jake could see in their faces that they understood what needed to be done. "We send word to Earth," Jake said. "Tell them what we found. We hope someone with the power to act will listen." "The Federation has rules about interfering in alien conflicts," Tom said quietly. "Then maybe it's time to break some rules," Jake replied. He walked to his captain's chair and sat down. "Lisa, prepare a full report for Earth Command. Include everything: the distress call, our translation, and my recommendation for immediate military intervention." "Yes, Captain." "Mark it Priority 1. Lives depend on this getting through quickly." As his crew worked to prepare the message, Jake stared out at the stars again. He thought about the voice in the alien transmission, the fear and desperation. He thought about an entire species facing extinction while the galaxy stood by and did nothing. Not if he could help it. 3 days later, the message was ready. Jake watched as Lisa sent it toward Earth, knowing it would take weeks to arrive. He hoped someone there would have the courage to act. On Earth, Admiral Kate Sullivan was finishing her morning coffee when the priority message arrived. She read it 3 times, watched the alien recording twice, and then walked to her window overlooking the Pacific Ocean. 20 minutes later, she was calling an emergency meeting of the Terran Defense Council. The Zilani had asked for help. Humanity was about to answer. Admiral Kate Sullivan walked into the meeting room where Earth's military leaders waited. The room was silent as she placed the datapad on the table and activated the holographic display. The alien voice filled the room. Even through the translation, the desperation was clear. When the message ended, nobody spoke for a long moment. General Marcus Stone was the first to break the silence. "How sure are we this is real?" "Captain Morrison is one of our best," Admiral Sullivan replied. His crew verified the transmission multiple times. "This is genuine. An entire species being wiped out," said Colonel Janet Foster. "And we're probably the only ones who received their call for help." General Stone stood up and walked around the table. He was a big man with gray hair and scars from Earth's last major war. "Can't just sit here and do nothing. These Korthoks sound like the worst kind of slavers." "Our nearest fleet is 4 months away from their location," said Admiral Patricia Hayes. "By the time we get there, it will be over." Dr. Amanda Foster, the head of the Experimental Weapons Division, had been quiet during the discussion. She spoke up. "There might be another way?" Everyone turned to look at her. Dr. Foster was known for her unusual ideas, but they often worked. "Project Berserker," she said simply. General Stone frowned. "That project was classified."
"How do you
know about it?" "'Cause I helped design it," Dr. Foster replied. "We've been building ships specifically for emergency response missions. Fast ships with crews trained for extreme conditions." Admiral Sullivan leaned forward. "Explain." Dr. Foster activated her own datapad. New images appeared on the holographic display. Sleek warships unlike anything in the regular fleet. These ships use experimental jump drives. They can make the trip to Zilani space in 3 weeks instead of 6 months. But the journey would be incredibly dangerous. Acceleration forces would kill most alien species we know about. "But not humans," General Stone said, understanding. "Exactly. Humans evolved on Earth. Our planet is more dangerous than most worlds in the galaxy. It can handle forces and conditions that would be impossible for other species." Admiral Sullivan studied the ship designs. "How many ships are ready?" 12, Dr. Foster said. "Each one needs a crew of specialists. People who are used to working in extreme conditions." "What kind of specialists?" asked Colonel Foster. "Deep-sea workers, mountain rescue teams, miners who work in dangerous conditions, military special forces. People who stay calm when everything goes wrong." The room was quiet as everyone considered the plan. It was risky. The ships were untested. The crews would be volunteers going into a war zone far from home. "I know someone who could lead this mission," General Stone said. "Commander Ryan Torres used to run deep-sea rescue operations. If anyone can handle this, it's him." Admiral Sullivan made her decision. Let him here and start finding crews for those ships. 2 hours later, Commander Ryan Torres stood in the same meeting room. He had listened to the alien distress call and reviewed the mission plans. His dark eyes were serious as he looked at the military leaders. "You're asking me to take 12 experimental ships halfway across the galaxy to fight an empire we know nothing about?" he said. "That's right," Admiral Sullivan replied. "To save aliens we've never met." "Yes." Ryan was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. "When do we leave?" The next week was a rush of activity. Word went out quietly to military units and civilian organizations. The message was simple: volunteers needed for a dangerous rescue mission. No details could be given. The risks were extreme. The response was overwhelming. Beth Carter, mining engineer who had worked in the deepest tunnels on Earth, volunteered immediately. Dr. Nick Davis, a military surgeon who had saved lives in the worst conditions, put his name on the list. Tony Mitchell, a weapons specialist who had never lost a team member, requested assignment to the mission. Ryan interviewed each volunteer personally. He was looking for specific qualities: people who stayed calm under pressure, who never gave up, who would risk everything to save others. "Why do you want to do this?" asked Beth Carter during her interview. "Because someone needs help," she replied simply. "That's enough for me." Dr. Nick Davis had a similar answer. "I became a doctor to save lives. Doesn't matter if they're human lives or alien lives." Tony Mitchell was more direct. "Bad guys are hurting good guys. That needs to stop." By the end of the week, Ryan had his crews. 12 ships, each with 10 people. They came from all over Earth: former Navy divers, mountain rescue specialists, oil rig workers, paramedics, and soldiers. On the day before launch, Ryan stood with his crews in the hangar bay looking at their ships. The vessels were beautiful and deadly, painted black with silver trim. Each ship had a name chosen by its crew. Ryan's ship was called Terra's Wrath. Beth Carter's ship was Deep Strike. Dr. Nick Davis commanded Lifeline. Tony Mitchell's ship was Stormbringer. "I won't lie to you," Ryan told the assembled crews. "This mission might be suicide. We don't know how many enemy ships we'll face. We don't know if our weapons will work against theirs. We don't even know if the aliens we're trying to save will. Trust us." He paused and looked at each face. "But we know this. Somewhere out there, people are dying. Children are being taken from their families. An entire world is being destroyed, and no one else is coming to help them." The hangar was silent. "Earth's military doctrine says we don't interfere in alien conflicts," Ryan continued. "Earth's politicians say it's not our problem. Earth's diplomats say we should wait and study the situation." He smiled grimly. "Good thing we're not politicians or diplomats." The crews cheered. Launch day arrived with little ceremony. The 12 ships lifted off from Earth in the early morning hours. Most of the world didn't even know they were leaving, as Terra's Wrath cleared Earth's atmosphere. Ryan looked back at his home planet. It looked peaceful from space, blue and white and beautiful. It was hard to believe such a calm-looking world had produced people tough enough to survive in the galaxy's worst conditions. "Course set for Zalani space," reported Julie Brooks, his navigator. "Jump drive charging. All ships report ready," added Steve Parker, his chief engineer. Ryan activated the ship's communication system. "All vessels, this is Terra's Wrath. You know the mission. 3 weeks from now, we'll arrive at a world under siege. We're going to save as many lives as we can, and we're going to make the bad guys pay for what they've done." He paused. "Earth is counting on us. The Zalani are counting on us. But most importantly, we're counting on each other. Let's go show the galaxy what humans do when innocent people need help." The 12 ships jumped into hyperspace, heading toward a war zone 6 months away. Behind them, Earth continued its quiet orbit around the sun. But the galaxy was about to learn something new about the species from the small blue planet. Humans didn't just explore space when they heard a cry for help. They answered it, even if it meant flying into hell itself. 3 weeks of hyperspace travel had pushed the human crews to their limits. The experimental jump drives created forces that would have killed most other species, but the humans endured. When the 12 ships finally dropped out of hyperspace, near Aquatica Prime, Commander Ryan Torres felt like he had been hit by a truck, but the sight that greeted them made all the pain disappear. Aquatica. The Prime was beautiful. The planet was covered in blue-green oceans with small islands scattered across its surface. It should have been peaceful. Instead, it was surrounded by a fleet of dark ships that blocked out the stars. "Count them," Ryan ordered his tactical officer. 230 enemy vessels, Sam Miller reported, including 12 ships bigger than anything in our database. Ryan stared at the massive Korthok fleet on his main screen. His 12 small ships looked like toys compared to the enemy force. Any sane military commander would have turned around and left. But Ryan Torres had spent his career pulling people out of impossible situations. He didn't believe in retreat when lives were at stake. "Open a channel to the other ships," he told his communications officer. "Channel open, Commander. All vessels, this is Terra's wrath. I know what you're all thinking. We're outnumbered 20 to 1. Their ships are bigger than ours. This looks impossible." He paused, watching his tactical display as the Korthok ships moved in their blockade formation. "But we didn't come here to win a fair fight. We came here to save people. That's exactly what we're going to do." Steve, scan for any way to contact the planet's surface. Chief Engineer Steve Parker worked at his station. "I'm detecting some very faint signals from deep underwater. Aliens might be hiding in ocean trenches. Can you boost our signal too?" "Reach them. Give me 10 minutes." While Steve worked, Ryan studied the enemy fleet. The Korthok ships were brutal-looking things, all sharp angles and weapon ports. They moved in patterns that showed discipline and experience. These weren't raiders or pirates. This was a real military force. "Got it," Steve announced. "I can punch a signal through to the deep ocean." "Do it. Use the translation protocols Captain Morrison sent us." The signal went out toward the planet. For long minutes, there was no response. Then a weak transmission came back. The same alien voice they had heard in the original distress call. "This is Calacia the Zilani. Who are you? How are you speaking? Our language?" Ryan took a deep breath. This was first contact for his species. "This is Commander Ryan Torres of the human race. We received your distress call. We're here to help." There was a long pause. Then, "Humans, we have never heard of your species. How many ships do you have?" 12. Another pause, longer this time. 12 ships. "There are hundreds of Korthok. Vessels here. You cannot help us. You will only die with us." "Let us worry about that," Ryan replied. "How many of your people are still alive?" "Perhaps 3 million hiding in the deep places. Twice that number have been taken by the Korthok or killed." Ryan felt anger build in his chest. An entire civilization was being destroyed while he watched. "Calace, we need information. Where are the Korthok weakest? Do they have supply lines? How do they fight? They blockade our world completely. No ships can escape. They send down raiding parties to capture more of our people. Their large ships stay in high orbit, but smaller vessels patrol closer to our world." Ryan looked at his tactical display again. He was starting to see a pattern in the enemy formation. "Julie, plot me a course through the planet's radiation belt. Use the magnetic field to mask our approach." Navigator Julie Brooks looked at him like he was crazy. "Commander, that radiation would fry most ship systems." "Most ship systems, yes. But these ships were built for extreme conditions. And Earth's magnetic field is stronger than most planets. We've been through worse. It will still be dangerous." "Everything we do from now on will be dangerous," Ryan replied. "Tony, what weapons do we have?" Weapons specialist Tony Mitchell checked his systems. It's plasma cannons, rail guns, and something called tectonic torpedoes that I've never seen before. "Dr. Foster's experimental weapons," Ryan said. "We'll find out what they do soon enough." He opened the channel to all ships. Again. "Listen up, everyone. We're going to do this the hard way. The Korthok think they have us outgunned, and they're right. But they don't understand what they're dealing with." Ryan's plan was simple but insane. Human ships would use the planet's own defenses against the Korthok. They would dive through radiation that would kill other species, approach from angles the enemy wouldn't expect, fight like their ancestors had fought in Earth's deadliest waters. All ships follow Terra's wrath. We're going in. The 12 human vessels dove toward Aquatica Prime, using the planet's gravity and magnetic field to accelerate beyond safe speeds. Warning alarms screamed in every ship as they pushed their crews to the edge of survival. The Korthok fleet detected them, but too late. The human ships emerged from the planet's aurora like ghosts, moving in formations that made no sense to the enemy commanders. Warlord Vexstar, reported a Korthok officer. 12 unknown vessels are attacking our patrol squadrons. Warlord Vexstar was a massive alien with 4 arms and scales like armor. He had conquered dozens of worlds, and no enemy had ever surprised him before. 12 ships? Destroy them quickly and get back to harvesting operations. But the human ships didn't fight like anything Vexstar had ever seen. They moved like schools of fish, flowing around enemy formations and striking at weak points. When Korthok vessels tried to pursue them, the humans led them into the planet's radiation fields, where the enemy ships couldn't follow. Their ships can operate in conditions that would kill our crews, the tactical officer reported. What species are they? Vexstar demanded. Unknown, Warlord. They call themselves humans. The first engagement lasted for hours. When it was over, 16 Korthok ships had been destroyed or disabled. The humans had lost nothing. More importantly, they had rescued 2 transport ships full of Zalani prisoners. This is Commander Torres. Ryan broadcast to the enemy fleet. You have attacked a peaceful species without cause. You've enslaved children and destroyed an entire world. This ends now, Warlord Vexstar answered personally. Foolish humans. You have saved a few thousand prisoners, but millions more will die. We have enough ships to crush your entire species. Then you don't know humans very well, Ryan replied. We don't calculate odds when people need help. We just do what needs to be done. The second wave of attacks began at dawn on Aquatica Prime. The human ships had spent the night hiding in underwater canyons, something the Korthok had thought impossible. They emerged like sea monsters, striking at targets across the planet's surface. Beth Carter's mining expertise helped them navigate underwater cave systems. Dr. Nick Davis treated both human and Zalani, wounded in makeshift hospitals set up in coral reefs. Tony Mitchell's weapons modifications turned each human ship into a precision instrument of war. By the end of the second day, Warlord Vexstar began to understand what his empire had awakened. These humans weren't just another spacefaring species. They were evolved survivors from a world so hostile that war and rescue operations were in their blood. How many ships have we lost? He asked his aide. 43 destroyed, 18 disabled. The humans have lost 1 ship, and its crew was rescued by another vessel. Vexstar stared at the tactical display. His massive fleet was being picked apart by 12 small ships because their crews could operate in conditions that killed other species. Bring in the Subjugator-class ships, he ordered. If we cannot defeat these humans, we will crack this planet's crust and kill everything. On it, the battle for Aquatica Prime was about to enter its deadliest phase. The massive Korthok reinforcement fleet arrived 3 days later. Commander Ryan Torres watched from the bridge of Terra's Wrath as new ships dropped out of hyperspace. These vessels were different from the blockade fleet. Larger, more heavily armed and built for one purpose: destroying planets. New contacts, reported Sam Miller from his tactical station. 6 Subjugator-class world killers, plus escort ships. A total enemy count now over 400 vessels. Ryan studied the new arrivals. On his screen, the Subjugator ships were enormous, each one bigger than a city. Their hulls bristled with weapons designed to crack planetary crusts. Steve, any word from our underwater bases? Chief Engineer Steve Parker checked his communications. Dr. Rachel Stone reports the Zalani are ready to help however they can. Carl Anderson says the underwater weapon modifications are complete. Ryan nodded. Dr. Rachel Stone was their xenobiologist, working with the Zalani to understand their world. Master, Chief Carl Anderson was their underwater warfare expert, a former Navy diver who understood combat in the deep places of the ocean. What about our ship modifications? Complete, Commander? All vessels can now operate underwater for extended periods. It wasn't easy, but we managed it. Ryan opened a channel to the Zalani hiding in the deep ocean trenches. Khaleesi, this is... Commander Torres, the enemy has brought planet killer ships. We need to take the fight underwater where they can't follow us. The alien voice that answered was stronger now, filled with new hope. We are ready, Commander Torres. Elder Mycian knows every underwater cave and current on our world. She will guide you. What about your people? Can any of them fight? Our young warriors volunteer to help. Tidelson leads them. They know our waters better than any surface dweller could. Ryan made his decision. The Korthok had brought overwhelming force, but they had made one mistake. They thought the battle would be fought in space, where their numbers mattered. Ryan was about to show them that this fight would happen in Earth's natural element, the crushing depths of a hostile ocean. All ships, this is Terra's wrath. We're taking the fight underwater. Follow me down. The 12 human vessels dove toward Aquatica Prime's oceans. Warning systems screamed as they pushed through the atmosphere at speeds that should have torn them apart. The ships held together. It's designed to handle the worst conditions imaginable. They hit the water like missiles and kept going down. The ocean around Aquatica Prime was unlike anything on Earth. Coral cities rose from the seafloor like glowing cathedrals. Strange plants created underwater forests that stretched for miles. And everywhere, hidden in caves and crevices, were the Zilani. The aliens looked like a cross between dolphins and octopi. With smooth blue-green skin and large eyes adapted for deep water, they moved through their underwater world with grace. That made the human submarines look clumsy by comparison. "Welcome to our world," said Elder Mycian when she met with Ryan's team in an underwater cave. Her voice came through translation devices the humans had quickly built. "We have waited so long for someone to help us. We're sorry it took us so long to get here," Ryan replied. "But we're here now, and we're going to end this." The Zilani elder looked at the humans with wonder. "Your species can survive in our deep places? The pressure here would crush most surface dwellers." "We evolved on a world with deep oceans too," explained Dr. Rachel Stone. "Our bodies can handle conditions that kill other species." Above them, the Korthak fleet was trying to understand what had happened to the human ships. Warlord Vextar stared at his tactical display in confusion. "Where did they go?" he demanded. "Into the ocean, Warlord. Our sensors cannot track them at those depths." "Then send ships down after them." "Sir, the pressure at those depths would crush our hulls. The radiation from the planet's core interferes with our systems." Vextar's 4 arms clenched into fists. "Then bring the subjugator ships into position." "Yeah, we cannot hunt them in." "The water? We will boil the oceans dry." Deep underwater, Ryan was coordinating the most complex rescue and combat operation in human history. Sam Miller led squadrons of modified fighters through underwater caverns to establish hidden bases. Laura Garcia, his demolitions expert, was setting charges that would turn the ocean floor into a weapon. The Zilani warriors, led by young Tidelson, showed the humans secret routes through coral mazes and underwater mountains. They moved together, like they had been fighting side by side for years. "The Korthok are positioning their big ships," reported Julie Brooks from her navigation station. "Looks like they're planning to attack the planet's surface. So then we stop them before they can." Ryan replied. The underwater battle began when Korthok patrol ships tried to follow the humans into the depths. The enemy vessels made it down a few hundred feet before the pressure started crushing their hulls. The human ships, designed for Earth's most hostile environments, kept diving. "Target their patrol ships," Ryan ordered. "Use the tectonic torpedoes."
Tony.
Mitchell fired the experimental weapons for the first time. The torpedoes moved through the water like living things, following currents and temperature layers to strike their targets. When they hit, the Korthok ships simply disappeared in flashes of light. "What the hell are those things?" Tony muttered. "Foster's surprise," Ryan replied. "Weapons that use a planet's natural forces against the enemy." The battle raged through underwater canyons and coral forests. The humans fought with skills learned in Earth's deepest trenches, while the Zilani used their knowledge of their home world to guide them to victory. Dr. Nick Davis worked around the clock to keep both human and Zilani forces operational. He set up medical stations in underwater caves, treating injuries that would have been impossible to heal on the surface. The The Zilani healed differently than humans, he reported to Ryan.
But
they respond well to our treatments. We're saving lives. Down here, above the surface, Warlord Vexstar was growing desperate. His fleet was being destroyed by an enemy he couldn't even see. Ships that tried to enter the water were crushed or blown apart. His troops were helpless. Charge the planet. Crackers, he ordered. If we cannot control this world, we will destroy it completely. The subjugator ships began to glow as their massive weapons powered up. Each one carried enough firepower to split a planet's crust, turning the surface into molten rock. But they had to get into position first. Deep in the ocean trenches, Ryan received word of the enemy's plan. They're going to crack the planet open, Steve Parker reported. We have maybe 2 hours before they're ready to fire. Ryan looked around the underwater cave where his command team had gathered. Zilani warriors floated nearby, their large eyes filled with trust. They believed these strange humans could save their world. He wasn't going to let them down. Carl, how many of those big ships can we take out with what we have? Master Chief Carl Anderson checked his tactical readouts. If we can get close enough, maybe 2 or 3. But Commander, there are 6 of them. We better make sure we hit the right ones, Brian replied. The final assault began with Zilani warriors leading human ships through the deepest trenches. On their world, they moved through crushing darkness where no Korthok had ever gone, using thermal vents and underwater mountains as cover. When they finally surfaced behind the enemy fleet, Warlord Vexstar ships were caught completely off guard. The first subjugator ship died before it even knew it was under attack. Tectonic torpedoes struck its hull, and the massive vessel simply broke apart, its pieces falling toward the planet like burning stars. Impossible, Vexstar whispered, as he watched his planet-killer ships being destroyed by enemies that seemed to appear from nowhere. The second and third subjugator ships lasted longer, but not much. The humans hit them with everything they had, while Zilani warriors used their knowledge of ocean currents to guide the attacks. By the time the sun set, on Aquatica Prime, 3 of the 6 world killer ships were gone. The remaining Korthok fleet was in chaos, unable to understand how such a small force could defeat them. But the battle wasn't over yet. Warlord Vexstar still had 3 planet crackers and hundreds of ships, and he was angry enough to use them all. The final showdown was about to begin in the deepest trenches of an alien world, where humanity would prove that some fights are worth having, no matter what the odds. Warlord Vexstar retreated to the deepest ocean trench on Aquatica. Prime with his remaining forces and thousands of Zilani prisoners, the massive alien warlord had built a fortress in the crushing depths. Using captured Zilani technology to create a base that could survive the pressure, Human Commander Vexstar's voice crackled through the communication system. You have cost me many ships, but I still hold the lives of 50,000 Zilani prisoners. Withdraw your forces, or I will execute them all. Commander Ryan Torres floated in the bridge of Terra's wrath, now fully submerged in the alien ocean. Around him, his crew worked at stations adapted for underwater operation. The ship's hull creaked under pressure that would have crushed any other vessel. Negative, Ryan replied simply. We don't negotiate with slavers. Through the dark water, Ryan could see the Korthok fortress. It was a twisted metal structure built into the trench wall, surrounded by the 3 remaining subjugator ships. Searchlights swept the depths, looking for approaching enemies. Commander, said Beth Carter, over the communication channel, I've been studying the geological data. This trench is unstable. The Korthok fortress is built right over a fault line. Ryan smiled grimly. Beth's mining experience was about to be very useful. Can you bring it down? With the right charges in the right places, yes? But someone would have to get very close to plant them. Leave that to us, said a new voice. It was Titleson, the young Zilani warrior who had become the humans' closest ally. My people know these depths better than the Korthok ever will. Ryan opened a channel to all human ships. This is it, everyone. The final push. We're going to save those prisoners and end this war. The assault on the Korthok fortress was the most complex underwater operation ever attempted. Human ships approached from multiple directions using thermal vents and underwater ridges as cover. Zilani warriors guided them through current patterns. that made them invisible to enemy sensors. Steve Parker had modified the human ships for maximum stealth. "We're running silent," he reported. "The enemy won't see us coming until we're right on top of them." Dr. Nick Davis had prepared emergency medical stations throughout the trench. "Field hospitals are ready for mass casualties," he said quietly. The first phase of the attack went perfectly. Human fighters led by Sam Miller struck the fortress defenses, while Beth Carter and a team of Zilani warriors placed explosive charges on the trench wall. But Warlord Vexstar was not finished. "If I cannot have this world," he broadcast, "then no one will." The three subjugator ships began to charge their planet-cracking weapons. Even from the ocean depths, they could still destroy Aquatica Prime's crust. Ryan called Laura Garcia from her demolition station. "Those charges are pointed at the planet's core. If they fire, the whole world goes up." Ryan made the hardest decision of his military career. All ships, ramming speed. If we take out those subjugators before they can fire. The 12 human vessels accelerated through the crushing depths toward the enemy ships. Warning alarms screamed as they pushed their crews beyond all safe limits. Terra's wrath struck the first subjugator ship at full speed. The impact sent shockwaves through the water that shattered coral formations for miles around. Both ships were destroyed instantly. The second subjugator died when Beth Carter's ship, Deep Strike, hit it amidships. The explosion lit up the ocean depths like a small sun. The third subjugator fired its weapon, just as Tony Mitchell's Stormbringer rammed into its hull. The planet cracker beam went wide, striking empty space instead of Aquatica Prime's core. In the silence that followed, Ryan found himself floating in the water outside his destroyed ship. His survival suit kept him alive in the crushing depths, but Terra's wrath was gone. "Commander," it was Dr. Nick Davis in the lifeline. "We're picking up survivors." One by one, the human crews were rescued from the depths. They had lost 4 ships, but most of the crews survived. More importantly, the Korthok threat was finally ended. Warlord Vexstar died when his fortress collapsed, brought down by Beth Carter's precisely placed charges. The remaining Korthok ships fled the system. Their empire's expansion finally stopped. The rescue of the Zilani prisoners took 3 days. Human crews worked alongside Zilani warriors to free every single captive from the underwater ruins. Dr. Nick Davis treated thousands of injured aliens, while Zilani healers shared their knowledge with human medics. "We owe you a debt that can never be repaid," Elder Mysion told Ryan as they floated together in a coral garden that had been replanted over the wreckage of a Korthok ship. "You don't owe us anything," Ryan replied. "We did what anyone should, do when people need help." Zilani Elder's large eyes studied the human commander. "Your species is remarkable. You traveled across the galaxy to save people you had never met. You risked everything for strangers. That's what makes us human," Ryan said simply. 3 months later, Ambassador Helen Foster stood before the Galactic Council on the space station orbiting Centauri Prime. Representatives from dozens of species listened as she told the story of Aquatica Prime. "The humans call it a rescue mission," said the delegate from the Thorak Republic. "But they destroyed an entire Korthok fleet." "The Korthok were slavers and murderers," replied Ambassador Foster. "They chose to fight rather than release their prisoners." "And what does humanity want in return for this service?" asked the representative from the Crystal Mines. Ambassador Foster smiled. "Nothing. We want nothing in return." The chamber fell silent. In the history of the galaxy, no species had ever fought a war for purely altruistic reasons. However, the ambassador continued, "If any of you ever receive a distress call from someone who needs help, we hope you'll remember what we did at Aquatica Prime. We hope you'll find the courage to answer that call." 6 months later, Commander Ryan Torres stood on the rebuilt bridge of a new ship, Terra's Vengeance. He was studying star charts when his communications officer called out, "Commander, we're receiving a distress signal. It's from the Broken Star System. A species called the Vorthan is under attack by raiders." Ryan looked at the message on his screen. It was the same story. Peaceful people being destroyed by those stronger than them. Innocents dying while the galaxy looked the other way? How far? He asked. For weeks travel time, sir? Ryan thought about Aquatica Prime. He thought about the Zalani children now playing safely in their coral cities. He thought about Warlord, Vexstar, and the thousands of Korthok, who had learned too late that some species don't calculate odds when lives are at stake. Set course for the broken star system, he ordered. Maximum speed. His crew jumped into action without question. They were humans. When someone called for help, they answered. Across the galaxy, other species were learning the same lesson. Peaceful Andromedans had organized their first military fleet. The trade-focused hegemony was sending armed escorts with their merchant ships. Even the isolationist crystal mines had started monitoring for distress calls. Humanity had done more than save one world. They had reminded the galaxy what it meant to stand up for those who couldn't defend themselves. In the depths of Aquatica Prime's oceans, Zalani children played games where they pretended to be brave human rescuers. They would swim through coral, gardens planted on the graves of Korthak warships, singing songs about the strange aliens who had traveled across the galaxy. Just to help them, the songs would be remembered for 1,000 generations. And whenever the Zalani faced darkness, they would remember that somewhere among the stars, there was a species that answered distress calls no matter what the cost, because that's what humans do. They hear someone calling for help and they come, running, even if it means diving into hell itself to pull strangers to safety. The galaxy would never be the same.